All right, welcome back to part two of Duality of Wrestling's review of Beach Break 2026. The original review went a little bit longer than intended. I really like to keep these under 30 minutes for my own editing purposes, as well as for your purposes in consuming the content. So, this is going to be part two. Let's pick it up. So, next up, we had another showcase match for the Death Riders, Moxley and Will Ospreay, taking on the workhorsemen of JD Drake and Anthony Henry. I'm not a workhorseman guy. They've never done it for me. I know they're mostly a Ring of Honor act. Fine. I'm not into them. But again, this was just another showcase match showing off this new team of Moxley and Ospreay at the top tier of the Death Riders. For anybody who is worried about Will Ospreay being aligned with a tweener slash even heel faction of the Death Riders, I don't think that's something we need to focus on too much because Will Ospreay was full on playing his regular babyface character here. I don't think that's going to change. I think the alignment is very temporary. It's going to lead to a great program down the line. But I don't think we have to worry about Ospreay's alignment personally changing at the very least anytime soon. So a good match, but again, just another vehicle to show off Will and Mox as a team at the top of the Death Riders pecking order. Brings us to the Women's Casino Gauntlet match for a shot at the AEW Women's World Championship at Redemption, opened up by Ring of Honor Women's World Champion Athena against Maya World. The entrances started out with Tekla coming out first in a denim black bikini top kind of outfit, sort of her contribution to the Beach Break theme, walking by Mercedes, who is, sitting on, watching from the elevated Adirondack chair slash lifeguard tower kind of setup. That's also fun. I really enjoy that. It's just another way they're incorporating the theme into the show. Really enjoyed it. The one thing I will say from Tekla was throughout this match, she had some issues on commentary with trying to sort of pick her spots and find places to get words in edgewise around Excalibur or Shivani or even Taz. There were definitely several instances where she wanted to interject more and just wasn't able to due to what was going on in the match and the main play-by-play and color team getting their own thoughts in. Felt a little bit bad about that, but she sort of made up for it later on. Athena enters wearing a top that said Athena Elite Wrestling. Love that, and I really, really am hoping that whenever she does drop the Ring of Honor Women's World Championship, whether it be to Maya World or whoever else, that she moves to AEW main roster full time. She's too good of a talent not to. I've heard rumors that some of her placement in the Ring of Honor tier is due to some of her own anxiety issues. As someone who struggles with mental health and most notably anxiety as well, I can understand that and I can certainly sympathize. But Athena is so talented. She belongs in the main event scene at the main roster level. So here's hoping this might be a subtle sign that some of those things are, I don't want to say in her rear view, but a little bit under wraps at the moment, at least under her control, and we can see her on the main roster more often than not. uh Tekla finally get to be a bit more unhinged on commentary, talking about wanting to motorboat Mina Shirakawa when Mina Shirakawa, was entered into the match. Fantastic. No notes. Tekla continue being weird lady Brian Pillman, especially because, one of the things she also mentioned was the last time she was at a casino, she won 10 grand and ended up with a stripper in her lap. Just so unhinged. She's just, you never know what that woman's going to say, and I love her for it. Speaking of people with new gear, Julia Hart had new gear that Tekla called out in commentary, and it really did look good. It looked pretty high end. I know Julia has also been struggling with some things, and hopefully those are past her. Julia is a fantastic talent, a former TBS champion. I'd love to see more prominence put on both her and Sky Blue. But based on the way some of this match went, I should probably bite my tongue a little bit. My wants are not necessarily that of AEW, so mer. The Sisters of Sin, in this match were sort of beating down security, intimidating Justin Roberts to get his chair to be able to use in the match. And thank God for it, because I am tired of the Sisters of Sin just being here to eat pins and, not and just being sort of arm candy for Tekla. They need to be a force in their own right, and they've been devalued a good bit with the amount of losses they've taken. Um, I wanted to say this was going to be a really good way to start building them back up, but again, watch the rest of the match, guys. There was a vicious drop kick onto a chair that was on Sky Blue's torso by Thunder Rosa that looked really, really stiff and really effective. Great work there. And that led us to the rest of the entrants in this match. I'll run down them all for you in order. Following the first two, we had Sky Blue, Mina Shirakawa, Rena, Julia Hart, Thunder Rosa, and Willow Nightingale, as everybody expected. Not terribly long after Willow entered this match, Willow was able to get the pin over Julia Hart with the Babe with the power bomb, securing herself a shot at Tekla's AEW Women's title at Redemption. We all saw it coming. The vignettes weren't exactly subtle, and this really does seem like they are pushing us to get towards a Mercedes versus Willow version 3.0 at All In for the Women's World Championship, which leads me to think that Willow is going to defeat Tekla at Redemption, and shit. I'm so disappointed. I really am, guys. I know a lot of you love Willow. I'm not anti Willow by any stretch. And frankly, she looked great coming back from her injury here. Her, ring rust was non existent. She looked very effective in this match. She looked like she even slimmed down a little bit, but not in a way that took away from how imposing she can be. Looked really good in this match. And I'm not saying Willow doesn't deserve a world title. I'm saying that I think doing it with only a couple weeks build for somebody who's been built up from the ground up the way Willow has, I think it's not enough build. I think it should be done at a bigger venue. I think she should be chasing rather than going into All In as the champion. And again, Tekla has just done so much for the main event scene of the women's division and frankly the women's division as a whole throughout all of 2026. To me, this would be an injustice. I hope that they would consider doing either a survival of the fittest match or a typical, one fall to a finish three-way match between Willow, Mercedes, and Tekla for the title at All In. Ideally, with Tekla going in as champion. I don't know that that's what they're going to do, and I'm disappointed by it. The post match kind of gives that away too. Tekla spears Willow while the Divine Dominion come out and lay out the Sisters of Sin on the ramp. They then sort of allow Mercedes to come down and give Owen Hart belt shots to both Tekla and Willow. Commentary sort of insinuated and flat out stated they believe there was a deal reached between Mercedes and the Divine Dominion for them to sort of assist and allow Tekla's backup to be taken out so Mercedes could take out both Willow and Tekla. It seems like a weird story to tell. Mercedes doesn't seem like she would need, heavies in that respect. And maybe that's being done to build Sisters of Sin as challengers for the Divine Dominion's Women's World Tag Team Championships at Redemption. The problem is you've devalued the sisters so much with the losses they keep taking. As I mentioned, Julia Hart eats the pin in this match. All the sisters have done in the past minimum 2 months, if not more, has been eating pins, devaluing their mystique and their aura and their importance. Huge fumble in my mind in doing that with them. It sort of shows they're sort of also rans to Tekla rather than being viable forces in their own right. I'm okay with them getting a title match, but it's not going to have the same impact it would have even 6 months ago. So sorry, I'm interested in it, but it's not. It doesn't grab my attention the way it would have. Jungle Jack Perry, we then cut to a vignette featuring him, noting that he, as a former pillar, has re-signed with AEW, so he will be continuing on his journey. This was more of an AEW retrospective for where he started, where he's gone, his feud with Christian Cage, his on-again, off-again tag team Jurassic Express with Luchasaurus, his scapegoat era, obviously, with all the CM Punk Crimea River stuff, his time in the Elite. I'm thrilled to have Jack Perry here. I was a big fan of 90210 growing up. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Loved Luke Perry. And I love that Jack Perry, while being born into a relatively affluent family, said, I don't care about all that. I'm going to grind it out on the indies. I'm going to bust my ass, making probably $50 a night and eventually getting into AEW, being acknowledged as a pillar, finally winning a singles championship years after his debut. I don't want to go as far as to say I love Jack Perry, but I really enjoy his character and his evolution. I'm excited to see where they go with him. And I do think he can be a guy who can be a future world champion for this company. So I'm glad he's staying. I don't really think there's anywhere else for him to go. WWE would not be a good fit for him for CM Punk reasons, as well as, numerous others. He doesn't fit their build. I don't think the audience would take to him quite as well, especially without the rights to the Jungle Life theme song that Tony bought for him, which was apparently relatively expensive. Happy he's sticking around. We have a Renee Paquette interview with Speedball where he challenges Mark Davis for the national championship. I believe that's taking place on Collision. That's going to be a fun as hell watch. And I typically am somebody who is like, I'll watch Collision, but it doesn't like command my attention. This match will command my attention. Speedball versus Mark Davis. I think they did that match maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and it was great to see the contrast of size and styles between the two. Can't wait to see it again. Now, guys, it's main event time. Kenny Omega, Maxwell Jacob Friedman, AEW World Championship, last chance match. Kenny loses. He could never challenge for the world title again, ever. Stakes are high. Justin Roberts started doing his belt collector intro for Kenny Omega, I noticed, talking about Kenny's accolades, all of the things that make Kenny Omega special. Stopped short of getting a North Carolina, and actually stopped Kenny's intro while he was at the top of the ramp because they wanted to do the big fight in ring intros, which I understand. It just seemed a little bit just disjointed to start doing the Kenny intro on the ramp and not introduce Kenny, but then do the big fight intro in the ring, while doing, I don't think, really anything for Max that I can recall. Just oddly laid out and didn't seem like they could decide which direction they wanted to go in. Probably would have booked that differently, but I understand the choice. Really awful camera work, by the way, during MJF's entrance. Not good at all. They really missed a lot of it. The shots looked poor. They, were like almost an over the shoulder shot. Just didn't capture the entrance really well. That really could have taken away in some viewers' minds, especially new viewers, from the aura of MJF going into a match of this size, especially, potentially given what the potential outcome could be. During the big fight intros, MJF stopped Justin Roberts to have him say he being MJF, is not from filthy Florida, the land of racism and incest. Magical. MJF, I hope you never leave. Don't ever go to WWE. Don't ever go and retire on us. Just stay with us forever. Someone, preserve that man in an Eldritch Palmer, the strain like chamber where he just gets like 8 different liver transplants to stay alive forever. Give me MJF until long after I'm personally in the ground. MJF's tights looking like they may have had some Bam Bam Bigelow inspo. It had the devil written on them in flames, but the flames looked sort of purple, red, orange, and yellow, kind of the way Bigelow's all over singlet used to. If that is an inspo, pretty cool. So I love little subtle touches from that. Maxwell tends to do things like that a lot. So if that is the case, I liked it. One of the early rough spots we saw was Kenny getting a difficult landing on the floor where his leg contacted the commentary table, and really could have led to injury. It didn't look great. Glad Kenny was able to get through the match and do well, but it looked pretty rough. I do want to note the chemistry. I noted this earlier about the show in general, but specifically regarding MJF and Kenny Omega, the chemistry was off the charts tonight. Everything these two guys did was so crisp, so swift, so smooth and fluid. Just, they look like they're meant to wrestle each other forever. Wonderful, wonderful match quality. There was a great shot, an impressive table spot to sort of redeem the camera work a little bit with a running kick that Excalibur missed calling a V-trigger, putting MJF through the announcer desk that Kenny banged his foot on. Really great shot. MJF took that table bump like a champ. Looked really effective and strong. Soon after, we got a running-ish tombstone spot onto a chair by MJF to Kenny Omega. Looked vicious, but also sold the way MJF landed that it dinged up his knee a little bit. Um, that led us to a typical MJF injury spot, which is the Heat Seeker being reversed and MJF landing hard on his feet, which usually he sells as having a knee problem. He does have a knee problem here. They established it well in this match. They sort of showed the exacerbation of it with the running tombstone chair spot. That led to an incredible V trigger that got us a near fall. Looked really, really good, as everything in this match did. We got a top rope poison Rana by MJF here. That commentary talked about the nuances of how MJF positioned himself and controlled his body to make sure that Kenny landed on the top of his head. Really great work by Excalibur on that. That was followed in short succession by a Heat Seeker for an incredible false finish that the crowd totally bought. Really great sequence there from the Poison Rana into the Heat Seeker. Could have easily ended the match. Didn't. Crowd totally bought it. That brings MJF pulling out the Dynamite Diamond ring to try to end this match. Will comes down, stops him from using it. Kenny stops from hitting MJF with the title while the ref's back was turned. He just couldn't bring himself to do it in true, plucky babyface fashion. MJF uses the opportunity, hit a low blow. MJF uses the belt to hit Kenny with the title, and Kenny kicks at one. What a great way to incorporate the style of Japanese fighting spirit that Kenny so embodied during his tenure at NJPW. Wow, fantastic. MJF looked horrified and stunned that you got a kick out at one after that belt shot. Kenny gets the upper hand. 3 straight V's triggers lead into a one-winged angel. Kenny Omega wins clean, and we have a new AEW Men's World Heavyweight Champion in the cleaner, Kenny Omega. Love it. Love the story being built here. They've done such a great job. This match was fantastic. And the match graphic showed at the conclusion that we will now be getting, barring any changes, Kenny Omega defending that World Heavyweight Championship against Will Ospreay at All In Wembley. This match is honestly the biggest match that AEW can put on right now. And frankly, they needed it. They have a cavernous arena to fill in Wembley. And I'm now intrigued to see, let's say in the next week, what ticket sales are going to look like and what, how much movement and money this change sparks. I know a lot of people were looking forward to the idea of Will versus MJF. We can still get that at a different time, at maybe a Revolution next year or another big money show, but we need to fill Wembley as much as possible. Such a big arena. This is the biggest and best match that AEW can put on. It has the most history. The quality is going to be off the charts. The story they've been telling since Revolution with Kenny and Will and Moxley is just incredible. I'm so excited to see this pay off on AEW's biggest stage. All In, London, Wembley Stadium, August 30th. Cannot wait. So that's Beach Break, guys. Let me know in the comments what you thought. As far as reviewing my own predictions, I was wrong in both my calls of Jericho and Takeshita winning. That said, I was correct in Willow and obviously Kenny being victorious in their matches. So 2-2 for me on the record front there. But let me know what your guys' thoughts in the comments were. What did you love about this? What didn't do it for you? And what are you looking forward to, in Redemption and then, leading into All In London? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Again, thanks so much for watching. This was a great Beach Break show. I hope you all got to see it so far. Thank you so much for checking out my review of the show. I will be back probably early next week to preview Dynamite and look at some more of the fallout from Beach Break and how that'll play into Dynamite leading up to Redemption. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel for all future updates and videos. I'm Christian for Duality of Wrestling. We will see you on the next one.